Good morning to all of you. Wow, quite a morning show, Nick, here. Welcome. Did you enjoy last night? All served to you by our Bavarian partner Explore Media. Good morning, my name is Liedewij Hensnaar. I'm the room host for today. You're all in track 2. And I think you're the right way to start the morning. I hand it over to Nick. First of all, I want to say thank you to all our sponsors, and I would like to advise you to see the exhibition on this floor. Nick, over to you.
Thank you, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Hello, how are you? So, there are some people who look really hungover, okay? Some people marginally so. That's okay. Heavy night? Lots of drinking? Not much? Little?
Enough.
Enough?
Shots until 5 a.m.
Okay, all the way. It was a great party. Who knew you could have so much fun with a piece of wood? Knocking in the nails and sawing the wood. Marvelous. Well, listen, thank you for getting up nice and early and setting your alarms. My name's Nik Goodman. I was a program director. I work with program directors as a consultant. And over the next 40 minutes or so, with my two wonderful guests who I'll introduce in a moment, we're going to tackle the interesting subject of how to be a better program director. Quick show of hands in the room. Who is a head of programs, program director, content director, anything like that? Who have we got in there? Okay, so good.
Crikey,
yes.
this is not good.
Yeah.
Can't blag it anymore.
They're going to be judging us. All right. Before I start, this is a conversation, right? So it's us talking to all you. At any point, stick your hand up if you want to ask a question to any of us. That's absolutely fine. If you want to disagree with us, that's absolutely fine as well. This is an interactive space. We are in the round room. So this is not like dead formal with loads of presentations and good news, there are no graphs either. No graphs at all. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of fun. We're going to have a chat. Before we get underway, has anyone seen, this is the one time in the cheap seats you're going to have to look over your head, okay? Has anyone seen this movie? Private Parts, Howard Stern, yeah. Great film, made back in, I think, 1997. I'm going to play you a little clip from it. This is where Howard and his team have joined WNBC in New York City, and the program director is not happy with the kind of content that they're doing, okay?
You goddamn motherfuckers. You fucking waltz in here and you think you know everything, don't you? Well, I fucking worked my fucking ass off to get to New York City. And you sure as fuck are not gonna fucking blow it for me.
We're just doing characters.
Barry, Jerry, clarify the situation for him, please.
Page 108, paragraph 3, no jokes dealing with flatulence, excretion, urination, ejaculation, or other bodily functions.
Also, no paragraph 2, no use of the so-called 7 dirty words. These are cocksucker, motherfucker, fuck, shit, cunt, cock, and pussy.
Now, from now on, all your little bits are gonna be under 2 minutes in duration. And all scripts, and I do mean all scripts, require my personal approval. Welcome to NBC, Howard.
66 WNBC.
Now, of course, our program directors are nothing like that, I'm sure, or maybe occasionally. Please welcome from Absolute Radio, Paul Sylvester, and from KISS in the UK, Rebecca Frank. Join us here. Okay, tell us about your stations first, for those who don't know. Rebecca, tell us a little bit about KISS, target audience, how many people listen, all that kind of stuff.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm going to be doing a bit of spinning, so forgive me if I'm not looking you in the eye when I talk all the time. KISS is a station in the UK for young at heart people, and I use that phrase on purpose. I don't say a youth station. The target audience commercially is 15 to 35. And we have 3 main brands. KISS, which plays upfront, pop, dance, rhythmic, energetic music, anything that feels right for the mood of the UK. And KISS 3, which is a really, really famous throwback brand. Also KISS Fresh, our black music brand as well. And we're all about current news, information, culture in the UK. And I would say fun and energy and vibes are our kind of tagline.
Okay, fantastic. Absolute, what can we expect if we tune into one of your Absolute stations?
So Absolute is a network of 10 radio stations. So the main Absolute radio station, and then decade-based stations, so 80s, 90s, etc., plus classic rock and country. Absolute targets, we don't necessarily have an age demographic target, we have an attitude target. So Absolute targets reluctant adults. These are people who used to go to gigs and festivals, be season ticket holders at the football, front row of the comedy night, then shit happened. They got married, they got mortgages, they got kids, they got careers. They still have that sense of mischief within them, but probably have the responsibility that means they can't do it every day. So they either do it with us or they live vicariously through us.
I love that phrase as well. Have we got any reluctant adults in the yeah?
It's always great when you start to see people nodding, going, oh, God, that's me.
I'm a reluctant adult, yeah. Okay, give us a short overview of your jobs then. Now, first distinction, you're known as content directors as opposed to program directors. What is the difference?
I'll give you a description of my job. I'll let Rebecca, who's probably better at the difference between program and content. I am a boss, a friend, a mentor, a counselor, a parent, a brother, a sister. I am all of those things. In so many ways, directing content is the smallest part of my job. It's about people. Our job it should be people director because that's what we do. Because actually, to get the best content, you need to have the people in the right place. So for me, my job is as much about that than it is about, let's put this program on at this time and let's put this song in this place. That's not what it is.
Okay, and then the content part?
Yeah, I would say anybody here, and there's many sessions today that are dealing with younger audiences, it's got to be about content, and content really means any moving piece of, material, speech, visual that lands on any platform that the audience can consume. Moving them to listen a bit longer, watch a bit more, buy something a little bit stronger. So yeah.
So it's more than just comes out of the speaker of the radio. It's
absolutely
across the brand.
I would say half of my time is spent thinking about things that aren't radio orientated.
Okay, let's talk about your time then. Is there a typical week? Do you kind of turn up on a Monday and go, right, it's Monday morning, so I need to do this thing as a content director?
Do you know what? I would say it's half structured and half, very, very of the moment, of the week, of the day. And I would say that's either to do with people things, or it's to do with the zeitgeist, or it's to do with what's happening in culture, or what's happening at the company or with people. So there are really fixed times, which I'm sure we'll get into, that we might meet up with particular programs. At the end of the day, we have products that are regular timetables, so therefore it's important to have a regular cadence of meeting structure or creative time with teams. We have regular times when we meet up as content directors at Bauer as well and collaborate, but apart from that, we're reacting and being proactive to the world outside.
Okay, it should be said then that you both work for the same company and the stations are in the same building, as it were, as well. Okay, good. Does everyone here or anyone here do the same thing on a Monday morning every Monday? Do you all, what would you do? Check the email, anything? Any Monday? What do you? Let's get a mic. Let's get a roving mic to. Let's get this is. Oh, there we go. I know who you are, but introduce yourself. And have you got a routine?
I will, of course.
Who are? Tell everyone who you are.
My name is Thomas. I work as a program director for 88.6. It's a radio station in Vienna, based in Vienna. It's for mostly the eastern part of Austria.
Okay. Do you do the same routine when you come in as a program director?
Of course, checking the emails is always a routine, but usually you already did some of that on the phone at home when you wake up. My routine is actually talking to the people. So having a look at the morning show that is still on when I get there. I used to be a morning show producer for 20 years of my life, so I'm very glad to get into the station at 8 a.m. and not 4 a.m. So that's a fun part. But I usually let them do their job. That's mainly what a program director should do, have the people in the right places. I loved what you said, being a people director in the first place. And then let them do their job.
So go and be seen and be with the people.
Seen.
Yeah.
Being there is probably the most important part.
I have a 9 o'clock meeting every day of the week, 5 days a week, which is with our commercial team. So 9 o'clock, they come on and they deliver all of the briefs that they've got from the previous day. And then we basically go through all of the ideas for all of the promotions, sponsorships, what we can do delivering that. And actually getting that done at 9 o'clock, done by 9:30 every day, means that that's one bit. They know they've got half an hour of my time every day to be able to go and get all of the information. And then actually, it means I can get on with the rest of my day and not be bothered through the course of the day. And actually, it's done. And then we meet the next day. If there's questions, we come back to it or we get new briefs. And it's such a structured way for me to be able to get all of that work done. It is a bit like they come in, they give me a brief, and now go, dance. Come up with an idea now. But it's quite a good way to get your brain going first thing in the morning. You do yours straight after me.
Yeah, we have ours straight after that, and it is actually one of my favourite meetings of the day. I've got a 15-year career at the BBC before I joined Bauer, so actually the sort of creative rigour of the commercial world I absolutely love, and my muscle is very, very in tune.
That's really interesting. Every day then a commercial meeting just to kind of really keep track because they want those ideas, they want
it's
stuff
the
coming
real
through.
world briefs coming in rather than being a little bubble of your own station, so
Yeah,
it's really, really good.
It's also really funny because one day you get Kellogg's Crunchy Nut Cornflakes, and the next day it's Co-op Funeral Care.
Yes, there's always
Not
a
like
weird
this.
one, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's usually the ones that are the weirdest ones that book.
Yeah.
And so it's like they're the ones where you've got to work. If it's something obvious, it's really easy to do a brief for the big brands. You know, if you get Netflix come in, great, or Amazon Prime, or the streamers, that's really fun. But actually, the most fun ones are the ones which are a smaller company with a more difficult message, and they're the ones that we often message about. And go, how did you respond to that?
Yeah, I sit there with radio stations, and they'll have like a health supplement or some pill, some magic pill that you can take, and I'm like, okay, we need an idea for that. Talk us through your week then. So we've done the kind of what you do in the day. Do you see your presenters every week?
Yeah, absolutely. I see them every single day in some sort of guise. I have a regular meeting, much like yourself, with the breakfast show, but I make sure that it's really with the presenters. Make sure that on Friday afternoons, I never put in meetings. I'm sure a lot of people are the same here, but I tend to kind of get on with some actual work at that point, but also it's when I might casually and impromptu check in on that presenter that I think I need to have a little phone call with or something like that.
And just to be clear, is that a presenter meeting? So every week you will say, let's get everybody together physically, or tell us how you do it.
No, not at all. In terms of like en masse presenters, I have quite a lot of presenters across the network. We have a lot of specialist DJs, so we have kind of a lot more presenters than some other brands at Bauer. So I would get all of the presenters together about twice a year. We are actually just moving into a new building at Bauer for a lot of our radio brands, and it's going to be a lot more conducive to being able to do that more often. In terms of my actual staff teams, we meet up every single day at 10:30 and have a kind of collective meeting for 10 minutes every day.
Where are you on physical versus Zoom Teams meetings? Because as we all know, during lockdown, we're all like engaged in these Teams meetings, you know, have all the presenters on those. And, you know, personally, I think you can't beat sitting in the room with your talent, and either collectively or individually. Are you kind of that ilk as well?
I think, you know, when lockdown happened, we were able to hire people who are the best people, but not necessarily geographically the closest. So there are some people who are still on Teams because I'd rather have them in my team and accept the fact they're in Scotland than in London. So there's some of that. In terms of, for me, Wednesday is breakfast show, weekly full team breakfast show meeting at 10, drive time meeting at 2, content management meeting at 12. There's an all-team meeting on a Thursday at 12, which is called Touch Points, which is all our social, video, digital. Everyone gets together, discuss the week, discuss what's coming up. There's then quarterly all staff and all presenter meetings. We did one of those last week, usually 4 weeks after the listening figures, and they are what we've done, what we've achieved, what the commercial numbers are, what's coming up, and then drinks.
And then drinks.
And that's the encouragement. That is the hook to stop that being a Teams meeting.
So how do you make meetings fun? Because you list a lot of meetings there, right? And meetings can be really boring, right? And how do you make them fun? How do you guys...
I just turn up.
You are the fun, right?
We always end the weekly team meeting with, it's always a game, which is best song by. We will give...
Ooh, hang on a minute, say it again. Best song by?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it can be, right, okay, everyone's done their bits, everyone's done their update. Right, let's go around the room. Best song by Madonna. And everyone gives their say. Everyone does their thing.
Vogue.
Like a prayer.
Okay.
To be fair, we have nearly run out when we're now doing best song featured on RuPaul's Drag Race.
Okay.
We're nearly done.
Do you do best song by, or have you got a different thing?
No, we don't. We do every single day in our Hive meeting, which is when everybody gets together for all departments for a quick update and church notices.
Sorry, the Hive.
The Hive.
Why is it? Explain.
I think it was born in. I started a week before lockdown, so most of my tenure of running this team has been one of really trying to bring people together. And we've had a lot of new people join. We've expanded a bit as well, so it's just a really quick shortcut word that I think gets everybody into the hive mind territory. Okay. But to make it fun, we make sure that we have this thing called This Is Cool. Every day somebody just shares something they think is cool and then nominates somebody to do it the next day. So it could be anything from a campaign that they think we should steal from, or just a really cool outfit that they've got on. It could be absolutely anything, and it always gets people smiling and energized.
That's really nice. So people are bringing stuff just to...
Yeah, participation is the big thing, right? Meetings are boring when it's a boss doing a monologue or 3 people having a dialogue in front of other people, which can happen quite a lot. I really insist on participation.
Participation in meetings. There's your first nugget there.
And nobody, if they are on Teams, has their camera off.
Okay, camera's on. So you can't be in bed, no makeup.
I don't care where they are. I want to be able to make eye contact even if I can't physically make eye contact.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk a little bit about breakfast shows, morning shows, the most important day part for most radio stations. What kind of input do you guys give to your shows to improve them, to make them better? Is it very detailed kind of coaching, or is it a little bit more generic and, hey, we need a bit more fun in the morning or stuff like that? What's the balance between detailed and kind of big picture?
For me, it's mainly overview. It's mainly, here's the strategy, how are we doing with the strategy? What's the big focus? What's the big story arc for the next quarter? How are you doing that? When's this coming back? How are we doing that? It's largely open-ended, bigger questions. I will get involved in the detail if I need to or if they want me to. And that's quite fun. I like, that's back to being a proper radio producer.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that. I try not to do that too much, if I'm honest with you. They know what the mission is. And actually, with our drive show, just before Christmas, we completely reset the mission of the program and said, right, okay, we were meandering a little bit. And we very much had a conversation of, right, let's go back and work out what this show is. And we started by going, everyone who works on the show, so 2 producers, 2 presenters, give me the 5 words that you would use to describe this show, or that you want this show to be.
Okay.
So they all gave their 5 words, which all were some similarities. So then from that, what we did was, we picked the most used 5 words and built a mission statement based on those 5 words, that now we run the show by that mission statement based on the 5 words. That, it was things like real life, funny, family. It was all of those things, but actually that's the kind of stuff that they want me to be involved in. They don't want me to be involved in what the daily feature is. Yeah. They want me to help them kind of really understand what we're trying to do.
And I guess it's about trusting the team as well. If there's a producer as well, you don't want to do their job. You've got to let them do their job and inspire them.
Absolutely. And I think, like Paul says, I always see my job to be the person to help constrain the, creativity likes constraint, right, is the phrase. So let's make a really good show. How can we make an idea that's going to be really good for our figures? Is the most boring, uninspirational, wide, you just get lost in the kind of envelope. But it's my job to try and constrain that. I would say a slight difference maybe with Paul is that sometimes I'm dealing with younger production staff, sometimes that are less experienced. So sometimes I need to lean in a little bit more to play the role. And I'm clear, right, now I'm going to play a different role. I'm going to be with you on the creative mission, and we're going to brainstorm together. And that might be because I'm trying to sort of train them by proxy how to do a good job of that. So sometimes I might play the role of the producer or the exec producer a little bit more, but I'm clear about that when I'm doing that, so they know that's not how I'm always going to be. I'm trying to sort of train them by proxy.
I want to talk about a difficult subject, which is problem talent, right? You mentioned earlier, Paul, how you've got to be the kind of, the dad, the parent, the brother. What do you do when someone's out of control, or you can see they're going off the rails and you've got to have the conversation with them? How do you go about doing that?
Being a content director is all about two things: trust and honesty. You need to trust the people, they need to trust you. And that's earned. That doesn't come easily. The other one is honesty. And honesty is, you can do honesty from day one. And my lot have always known that I will be 100% honest with them. And if I can't give them the full story right now, I will tell them that I will be honest in telling them I can't give them the full story right now. And I'll say, we'll do it as soon as I can, I'll do that. But I think you've just got to sit down with presenters who aren't performing or what have you, and you have just got to be honest with them and say, look, this is where we're at. Is there a reason that this is happening? Because half the time there is. Because nobody, whether they're a presenter or a producer, comes to the radio station to do a bad job. Everyone wants to be brilliant. Everyone wants to get the next step in their career journey. So I think you've got to ask that question, understand. And I think the first step is going, okay, right, here's your problem, here's what you're thinking, here's where I am and where the radio station is. How do we bring you closer to this? Because we need to be. Yeah. We need to get closer to this. And then, then there's, put processes in place to help them, to support them, to get them to where you need to be. And then, you go along the line and you go along that journey. But I think you're not doing your job right as a program director or a content director if the first thing that the presenter hears about that there's a problem is when you're saying they're out the door.
Right. Yes. You've not done your job because they need to be taken on the way. How do you show people the door nicely? Because, we're
and seen.
Yeah.
I'm so pleased you got that bit of the question.
Yeah. Because who's had to let somebody go from their radio station, right? And it's shit, right? It's horrible. I didn't get into radio to kind of fire people. It's not a fun process. So talk us through how you would imagine you were firing me because I just was out of control.
No, that's okay. I'll just talk through it, Nick. Thanks. Yeah. No, look, it's a really short answer. You just need to be very honest about what is happening straight up front. Don't beat around the bush. There's no need to give them a 3-minute monologue about how much you love them before you then tell them to fuck off.
Yeah. So, you're really great, but...
It's not the time to people manage. It's the time to be really clear about what is happening and why.
Yeah.
And then let them respond, give them space and time. Perhaps the next conversation or the nice words that you have to say about somebody is in another conversation. They probably won't hear anything nice that you say after that point and will think that you're bullshitting them even if you're not. One thing I did want to say just about those kind of difficult conversations or if somebody isn't performing is, in radio, let's face it, sometimes it's not really obvious that somebody is doing a really bad job because it is a very subjective medium. We don't get digital metrics as to how a radio show has performed straight after the mic goes down. There is a lot of gut feeling and long-form data and PR metrics and lots of nuanced things that go into us ultimately, or our bosses, as well as us making the judgment as to whether somebody is doing a good job or not. It's not binary. So therefore, I think it's really obvious, really clear, like what Paul said, to have that just very distinctive conversation with somebody about where they are rather than a very nebulous, I think, I feel conversation.
I think there's also an issue with agents as well. If presenters have got agents, that's what they're there for. That's what they're earning their 15% for.
Much easier to tell the agent.
Well, it's work with the agent.
Yeah.
There was I think we all are the products of our careers so far, right? And the way I direct content now and run my team is based on the experiences. And there was a departure from a radio station I worked at in the early stages of my programming management career where I watched someone do it really, really badly and didn't involve the agent. And it could have gone so much better if we'd sat down, had the conversation, got the agent on board. Because then the agent, when they found out, it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Whereas if we could have made it a much better thing. So for me now, it is very much about, okay, who are the stakeholders in this? How do we do it? But Bex is absolutely right. When you have told someone that that is it, end the meeting and get out. Because nobody wants to be there.
Yeah.
You're padding, saying things you don't want to say, and they're not listening anyway.
Yeah. So Alex
They're
Ferguson...
worrying how they're going to pay their mortgage.
Yeah, well, that's not your problem necessarily. So Alex Ferguson, the football manager, famously once said, you can't be boss of the boys and one of the boys.
Yeah.
Right? And he drew the distinction between kind of the managerial role and being their mate. Are you mates with your team? Because you see them every day, and they're like, as you said, you're like their brother, their dad, their friend, you know? So how far...
I think I'm more like their mother, their sister, to be honest with you. Am I mates with them? There are times, yes. I like to think so. I think there are times when stuff is going on in people's lives where I am their friend. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy that, and I am the big brother, big sister, whatever you want to be. And I think I am friends. And you become friends with the people you've worked with for a very long time. Yeah. And I think that is important. And I think people enjoy that. It's certainly the culture that we've tried to create at Absolute, that it is we talk about the Absolute Radio family.
Yeah.
And it is very much a family, and we've very much built it around the family. It's a line that we use, which is, we can all bicker, right? We can all fight like a family, but if someone comes for the family, we move as one.
Right, okay.
And I think that's a really important way for that we work like that, and we will stand up for each other. We'll be honest with each other, but don't come after the family.
Okay. Ooh.
That makes us sound
Very
quite
Italian,
sinister.
yeah.
A mob-like.
It's quite threatening, isn't it, really?
Well,
Don't
you
come
know.
after the Absolute Radio family. You will get... Anyway, I want to talk about music. Music. So, most radio stations will have a header music or a music scheduler, something like that. Do you get... How involved are you in that, or do you just kind of... And it varies from station to station, of course. Do you get involved in those nitty-gritty conversations about rotations and all that, or not?
Yeah, I would say probably going to get a slightly kind of distinct answer because of the nature of our brands. So KISS, like we said at the beginning, is very much driven by that kind of current turnover of zeitgeist music and culture. And therefore, I do... sign off on the weekly playlist and make sure that if I have like a strong opinion on something, I will give it. I'm often sort of consulted if there's a track. We know that tracks are coming and going so fast nowadays in kind of our neck of the woods in the kind of dance and pop world. So therefore, I will have an opinion about whether I think we're moving on stuff too quickly, whether we need to bother with that tune or not. We're a mood-based station. So therefore, it's really important that if the guys need help picking between one or the other, that I help. But don't sit there for the whole playlist meeting. I don't micromanage it. I definitely help our macro relationships with the music industry, and I make sure I have relationships with the senior promotions departments and stuff like that. So I would say I'm pretty involved, but at the same time, absolutely the music team, do their thing, and they're the ones on it every single day.
But you have the ultimate say, not that you wield your power massively, but if you don't want something to go on, it doesn't.
Yeah, and there are sometimes kind of debates and stuff like that which are just really healthy. But at the end of the day, I think kind of like long term, there's that trust factor between myself and the head of music, who's got an amazing gut feel.
Yeah. Okay. Similar for you, or a little bit different, or do you let them get on with it, the team?
I think very much for Absolute, because things move a lot slower than they do at KISS musically.
Yep.
I will ensure that the team know the strategy for the music, that they understand the strategy, that they can see the evolution of where we're going, and then I pretty much leave them to get on with it. I will very much champion things that I think we need to be on, but in terms of rotations, clocks, playlist, that's what they're there to do.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know, I'm very lucky. I work with some people who have got a far more in-depth musical knowledge than I have. I remember once sat in the office going, what the hell is this shit we're playing? To be told, Paul, this is the Beatles. So
And that's why it's not involved.
I
There
am
you
not
go.
that involved.
I'm very personally offended. Being from Liverpool, I'm very personally offended at that.
It wasn't one of the ones you know.
Okay.
It was a deeper cut.
Is it?
I mean, I say really deeper cuts.
Yeah. So you're not poring over your burn scores every week on call out? No. Okay, leave that to them.
No.
Same
Also,
for
we've played Oasis for the last 30 years and it's worked. We'll keep doing it. It's fine.
Oasis. Yeah, there you go. Imaging the same? Have we got any imaging producers in here? They're probably locked in a dark room somewhere because they don't like people, do they? Right? So.
Oh, Nick.
Oh, that's not.
There's one. You do like people, sir. Well
Some
done.
of my favourite people.
Well done. Come on. Do you leave them to it? Or do you get stuck in there and listen to the latest whooshes, bangs, and whizzes?
Oh, just love a show reel.
Yeah.
Exactly the same tactic that Paul's just sort of said, as long as the kind of, the strategy is agreed with and we're kind of showing encouragement and empowerment, exactly the same kind of tactic that Paul's described around music for him.
Yeah, okay. I want to go back to something you talked about earlier, which was the relationship with sales and the commercial side for commercial stations, and that's kind of so important. On your morning show, you've had a long-term sponsor of your breakfast show. Are you involved in that relationship then with the client directly? How much do you get involved with that, developing that relationship? And just spend a little minute telling everyone about it, because I think it's a really interesting case study.
So there is a DIY chain in the UK called Wix, and they have been the breakfast show sponsor now for 12 years. They've just signed for years 13 and 14.
Wow.
Which is huge.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I was involved in the meeting before the agency even got Wix on board. They came in and we had a brainstorm about if this agency won the pitch to get Wix, would Absolute Breakfast be available to be sponsored? We said yes, we came up with loads of ideas. I think what's interesting is, again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, it is very hard to make tins of paint, loft insulation, fencing and paving sexy, right? Yeah. And we've been trying for 12 long years. But the good news is Wix have come on the journey. They were a very staid corporate brand before they worked with us. And they've taken our tone of voice. They trust us. Again, it's another form of trust.
Talking about making it sexy, though, one of the things you did with the morning show is Dave Berry, the presenter, didn't he get his own shade of paint?
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of cool, right? And they sold that in the store.
Yeah, we worked with it. We've done all kinds of things. I remember there was once a very senior person from Radio 4 came up to me and said, my favourite bit of Absolute Radio is when you get listeners on to do impressions of power tools. And that one is an aria. But yeah, we do loads of that. But in terms of the relationship, I'm not in every weekly meeting with Wix, because there is one every week. But I have a meeting, just me and the marketing director of Wix every month. And that is we call it a top-to-top. And basically, she will tell me what's going on at Wix. I'll tell her what's going on at Absolute. She will often find out stuff about the radio station before everyone else. She likes to have that insight and knowledge. She feels part of the station. And then she will say to me, we've got this problem. You know, it very much happened. It started during lockdown. We were on a Teams call. All her stores were closed. She couldn't do deliveries. So she was like, do I come off air? And I said, no, obviously.
Obviously.
This is a salesman in me somewhere.
That would be the worst decision.
And so we talked about then just them transferring their messaging to be about supporting communities. And just, sending love from everyone at Wix. And then when stuff started to move, we just did loads of good stuff with communities and giving out vouchers. But that came from a meeting where there was no agency people, no salespeople, no producers, just me and Shelley having a chat. In my Wix kitchen.
Yeah, in your Wix kitchen. Of course. I hope you got
that I paid for with my 10% discount.
Yeah, very good. So it's a really good lesson, everybody, which is about that close relationship with your best clients, and you can develop that long-term relationship. Which
You've got a great story with KFC, haven't you?
Yeah, KFC. We have had them sponsor our drive show for many years. Obviously, we talk about chicken quite a lot, therefore. But they came to us last year saying that they didn't come to anybody else, not the agency, they came straight to us again and invited us to their office, and they wanted to make sure that everybody knew about all the amazing stuff that they do with young people. They've got these amazing ambitions that by 2030, a third of their workforce comes from young people from disadvantaged backgrounds. They're one of Europe's biggest youth employers. And I, obviously alarm bells in my head thinking, wow, how are we going to do this in between playing a couple of dance records? But actually we had a really long day. We had an all-day conversation, and I think that small group meeting, the one-on-one, or the 4 people, that small, agile group of people that can have a really honest conversation about quite difficult things at that point was so, so important. So we ended up, we're now building out a really big campaign on air.
So being a better program director is having better relationships with key clients.
Yeah, and knowing when the right time to do that is, and actually forget about that. Maybe for that one day, don't have that breakfast show meeting that you always have on the Monday, because you're going to have another one next week. And actually, right now, right here, it's really important that you show up to that piece, because that's going to pay off in years to come.
But I think the other thing within that as well is we all live in a world where budgets are tight, right? The clients are the people who've got the budget to help you do the stuff as a radio station that you want to do. So actually, making the most of the clients, taking them on the station's journey and getting them to pay for stuff that you want to do anyway, that's the holy grail.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I've just looked at the clock. We've only got 5 minutes left, which is a real shame because I'm enjoying this conversation. I got loads of stuff to talk about. If you've got a question, now is your time. It's been less interactive. Let's get the mic over there. Let's get some questions because, here's us chatting away. We got a good question. Who are you? Where are you from?
Hi, I'm Rune Håkonsen from the Norwegian Public Broadcasting.
Hello.
Go back to one of the things you said about trust and honesty with talent development. And in the public broadcasting industry, at least in Norway, we can't get rid of people. We have to work with them, even if
Hang on, you can't get rid of people?
It's very hard. It's
Okay.
very hard. So I just wanted to hear some more insights into the coaching of people when you meet new circumstances, new challenges. If you can go into a little more detail, how do you work with people over time to develop them in the direction you want?
I think there is, again, it goes back to that thing of be really clear on what you want from them. And radio isn't a one-size-fits-all, right? This is casting. It's a football squad. You need a radio station based around your midfield general, your strikers, your defenders, your youth, your experience, your super subs. It's all of those people. But they need to know what their role within that is. They also, I think, need to know, okay, if you do this and it works, here's what your next step is going to be. Here's where we can get you to. So if it is weekend overnights, I had a guy who did that, and his goal was to get to weekday overnights. And then it was to get to weekend early breakfast. And now he's on afternoons. But it was always about, if we do this, and if it works, and if we get it right, here's your next step. And that next step's always going to be better than what they've got right now. So it's the encouragement of that, with clear objectives and regular interaction. So when you've got that, it is very much about, right, we're going to meet every week or every 2 weeks to be able to follow up, listen back, go through it. The first meeting is always the big meeting, then it's detail, detail, detail.
And I was just going to really quickly say examples are so important. What do you mean by come with loads of ideas? This is what I mean. And listening back, showing those examples of either what they've done or what other people do for inspiration, just making it really tangible in radio is so important.
Be specific, don't be too generic. Any more questions from anybody? I got one about creativity. Then, one of the radio stations I work with, every year we go away before the new season of the morning show starts in September for them, and we have like a creative weekend away. I call it a creative retreat to make it sound more exciting, and it's a balance between doing some work and having some fun. So it's a bit of team building, but we actually come up with loads of great ideas. Is that something you guys do, or similar, or different, or how do you go about making sure we're always coming up with new stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we never have a rap party in radio, right? It never ends. You might have seasons or series of things, or you might have to artificially put them in place where it feels like that, but you never have a rap party. So therefore, we're on all the time. You can't pause the whole thing and do a big kind of thing like that. So it is about, for us, putting those things in place, and breaking routine is the best way to get creative ideas going, because if you're on that treadmill all the time, which we are in our sort of commercial meeting every day, that's the job bit of creativity. The bit where you really kind of get people thinking divergently and expansive for me is taking them off that show. Sometimes even just for a day, which feels for a breakfast show producer feels huge. Break the routine. Nobody's going to die, but they're probably going to have that day when they don't have to think about that really granular thing, and they can come up with that idea. Get them off the show for a day. Just give them that space.
And even just doing a meeting in a different room or a different place would be great, because it breaks
I
breaks
think
the routine.
as well, I think that is a good way to do it. But I think ideas come when ideas come.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't actually stop people sending you an idea at any point on any day. 4 years ago, in 2 weeks' time, I got an email from a producer who messaged me literally during the first 2 weeks of lockdown and said to me, I'm really upset and my nan's really upset because actually all her VE Day celebrations are going to be cancelled. Could we do an hour where we just play 40s music to celebrate VE Day?
Music from the 1940s.
Yes, and what we decided to do literally in that moment was create an entire 40s radio station for a day. But it came because the producer felt able to come up with a stupid idea and send it and know that it would get read.
Yeah. So encourage creativity.
Yeah.
Get it seen.
You have process and culture that allows it to happen,
Ladies and gentlemen, can you believe it? We've run out of time already, which is, I could carry on chatting like this for another hour or so, but being a radio person, I like to have a clock finish, and I'm 30 seconds over already. Please thank Paul Sylvester and Rebecca Frank. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.
There you go. Well done, mate. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Here at 10 o'clock for Smarter Production to skill up on audience reach at track 2.